My name is Barzilai. I'm a professor of medicine and genetics at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and the director of the Institute for Aging Research. I'm 55 years old and I'm very much aware of my aging. I'm aware of the aging of all the people around me. In my family, I don't have longevity genes. In fact, my parents did not live long and they are both sick for the last 5 to 8 years in their life, and it's heartbreaking. On the other hand, in my wife's family, there is longevity. This is Frida Buchwalter, my wife's grandmother. She died last year at age 102, but she was healthy throughout her life until 2 weeks before her death. You see her in this picture in her 100th birthday. At that time, the guy she was dating was 85, and she complained that they're getting a little bit too young for her. But she really demonstrated to me what's so fascinating about those people and how they must be an example, a biological example for something so significant.
How old are you now?
96 and 3/4.
Okay, I want to go to 90.
We started the longevity gene study in 1998. We recruited to our study 500 centenarians, over 500 centenarians now. We also recruited their offspring, their children, because their children are enriched with longevity gene. The goal of this longevity gene study is to understand how centenarians live so long. And we selected people that are 100 years old and yet they have full life and they enjoy their life to the fullest. And this is in spite of the fact that some of them are smoking and some of them are obese. What is it in their genetic makeup that allows them to get to this age and be healthy at this age? I should emphasize that our goal is coupled with the quality of life. We really want people to just live healthier rather than get age-related disease and suffer through them. I hope that in our lifetime, we will be able to use medicine in order to prevent the age-related diseases of aging and improve our quality of life as we age. We have a lot to do in this field, but the 100 years old are an inspiration, and they are showing us we can get to this maximal lifespan that we probably have, that is about 100 years old, and we can get there healthy, and we can get there with good quality of life. And I think it's our obligation as scientists to do that.
Please welcome Dr. Barzilai.
Hello, this is such a pleasure to be here with you. I was a resident in Jerusalem in the 1980s, and Shaare Zedek was a small place, but it's not anymore. It's huge. Location is stuff, but really an incredible job, and I'm just happy that you're involved, and I'm happy to contribute for this event. And thank you for the organizer of this event. It's very nice thinking of me. And I have a really simple message, and that is that you know that aging has biology, because you know who's old and who's young. What many people don't know is that this biology is very flexible, and aging can be targeted. Aging can be delayed, aging can be stopped, and can be reversed in several situations. And I'm not saying there's no death, but aging the way it is should be over, has to be over soon. This idea that we have to accumulate disease after disease and their treatment, and the diseases are terrible and the treatments are terrible and the combination are even more, this is not how it should be. We know how to stop aging, and because aging is what driving these diseases, we should do it, and we can do it, and we will do it, and we'll do it right now. And now let me share a few slides with you. And I want to start with this slide that really shows you the relationship between age here and death from age-related diseases, and those diseases are here. Okay, and I'll give just example. You don't have to look at all the lines, but what I want to point out is that when we are old, then our risk of dying from any of those diseases is increased by a lot. The scale that you see here is logarithmic scale. It means like for heart, our chances goes from 5 per 100,000 per year to 5,000 when we're over the age of 85. There's no greater risk for heart disease than aging itself. And if you get a heart attack and you get to the hospital, and in Shaare Zedek they do bypass, they do stent, but that's only for the heart. And it's no wonder that 2 years after your heart attack, you can get diabetes or Alzheimer or cancer because we never did anything about aging. And the same story goes from cancer and for diabetes and Alzheimer and stroke. So aging is the major risk for age-related disease. Aging, its biology really drives those diseases. Now, what happened in the last decades, we had a hope that maybe we can do something about it, but we're much farther than a hope. We're in promised land. And we created a science that's called geroscience, the science of the old. And what we have agreed on as a community is that there are hallmarks of aging. And I'm not going to go over the hallmarks of aging in the short time that I have, but there are eight of them here. And how do you become a hallmark? You become a hallmark if we showed that we can intervene in any of those problems and extend health span and lifespan of variety of animal models. If that's what can happen, you can become a hallmark. And the important thing here is look how the hallmarks are interconnected to each other. You can fix one thing and it influences all the others as well. For example, we are all concerned with the immune dysfunction that makes the elderly such a target for viruses like the coronavirus or the flu. We also see inflammation that is the reason that is killing so many older adults. And you can correct both of them by treating the aging. You can also correct proteostasis and affect the immune function and the inflammation. And what we've done smartly as a society, as scientists, we looked at animals that live longer by variety of method, and that's how we made progress that is already relevant for therapy. So to put it in just 2 sentences, Healthspan, and by the way, I'm all about Healthspan. I don't care if people live long. My view is you decide what age, but you're going to be healthy, and that's it, and you'll die. We're not against that. We're not going to stop it. But we can instill Healthspan, and as a side effect, we can affect lifespan too. And relevant drugs, some of them that are in human use, have been shown to target the aging. As an example here, I want to show you data from, it's in my lab, but we do it in many labs, where we take animals, in this case, rats, and in this study there were about 100 rats, and the ones in red, everybody was 100% alive in the beginning, and those guys in red got to eat whatever they wanted, and they eventually starting to survive less and less, and all of them were dead by 130 weeks. But if we take animals like that and we give them caloric restriction, then their health span is improved. It looks like they're achieving their maximum lifespan and die almost in 1 day. So caloric restricted animals live healthier and they live longer by a lot. And by the way, part of why they live longer is that we give them the food in the morning. It's not much food, but they are hungry. They eat it in the morning and then they are fasting. And that's why a lot of us are doing now 16-hour fast, and then we eat the food in 8 hours, because that's really how it's working in this caloric restricted animal. Another example is giving mice those two treatments that I mentioned before, metformin and rapamycin. And when you give it, you see that the ones that are not getting it are starting to die, but those that are getting it are living 24% longer. Okay, and I have many slides that prove this concept, that by environmental changes, by exercise, by drugs, we can target aging very effectively. So I want to introduce to you a part of the research subject in one of my labs, and those are the Kahn family. The Kahn family, I'm showing you 4 siblings that were born in New York City between 1910 and 1920. And what's unique about them is that all of them lived to beyond the age 102. The little sister died at 102. They were shocked. The big sister lived to be 110, 107, and 109. What are the chances that siblings are born and living such a long time? Well, I told you that we did something smart. We look at longevity, and that's what I've done in this study. I took those 100 years old and their families to understand why their aging has been slowed. Okay, and that's what it is, why their aging has been slowed. And I have over 750 centenarians, and I have also their offspring and control, and there are several studies. But I want to tell you another interesting thing. They're all Ashkenazi Jews. They're Ashkenazi Jews because when you do genetic study, because that's what we're trying to do, the genes, the longevity genes, we're trying to find them. When you do studies like that, you have to use a very homogeneous population. It also happens that they are very similar in their education level and really socioeconomy factors that are causing big diversity in health in the United States. So it's good to have people who are so similar. We figured out that we need 50 times more people in order to get the same results if we don't use only the Jewish population here. And we found many things. We found also longevity genes, but I really want to make one point clear. We asked, do they get disease when everybody gets disease and then they live longer? Or is their health span and lifespan comes together? And this is another kind of a survival thing, right? That everybody is 100% okay, but our control, they don't have longevity, they start getting sick at 60, and by 80, almost 90% of them have some form of a disease. While our centenarians are getting the disease much longer, in fact, 20, 30 years longer. So it's not only health span, it's not only lifespan, it's health span. It's because their aging is slower. And this is really important because even the CDC showed that the medical care in the last 2 years of life of somebody who dies over the age of 100 is third of that who dies between 60 and 70. We call it the longevity dividend. And we have to realize that if we're all becoming healthier, we're going to save money. It's not going to cost us more. One of the drugs that affects all the hallmarks of aging that I told you before is called metformin. And metformin is interesting because it's been in use for 70 years. In fact, it was used initially to prevent flu and malaria, okay, so immunity. But at that time, they noticed that it lowered glucose only in diabetic patients. And since then, metformin is the drug of choice for diabetes. And I'm pretty sure that one of you or your family are on metformin. It's the first drug of choice. It's generic and it's very cheap. It's almost the cheapest drug in the US market. And I'm conducting a study to show that that metformin targets aging and we can prevent lots of diseases to show how aging can be targeted. But I want to show you one really interesting results. A couple of weeks ago, this group reported on what happened to people who used metformin on mortality when they get COVID-19. okay? And as you know, age is a risk factor for death for COVID-19. So if you have higher risk, if you have no different risk, it's at 1. If you have a risk that's tenfold more, it's coming here. And if it's 0, it's coming here. And you can see here that age is a risk factor, male is a risk factor, obese is a male factor for death, right? All of them are between 5 and 8-fold risk. But look at people who use metformin. They have 67% less mortality than those who are not on metformin. It just shows you how one drug that is gerotherapeutic can make such a big effect on a disease like COVID-19. The future is really now. Look, you can get a sperm of a 70-year-old man and fertilize an egg of a 50-year-old woman. And we can measure the age of the sperm and egg. But what happened when this baby is formed, this is called blastocytes, okay? It erases the aging. We don't remember the age of our parents. We start from 0. We know how to figure it out in our body. So we're going to figure out and make much more impact of how we prevent aging, we extend health span and function and fun and quality of life much longer, and we can start right now. So let me stop sharing, and I'm back with you, and let me read some of the questions that I have here. Well, what do you do? What do you do? It's not about me. But I'm doing 2 things. I've been on metformin for a while because I was pre-diabetic. I'm not pre-diabetic anymore, but I'm on metformin. I'm also doing this diet, the 16-hour. I'm really skipping breakfast. You know, I end dinner. If it's 8 o'clock, I don't eat anything until 12, except I drink coffee without milk and sugar. And it improved a lot of my functions. It improved my sport capacity. It decreased my weight somewhat without trying, because it's not about eating less. It's just eating in different part of the days. And many people find it easier. You know, there's some people who say, no, I cannot skip breakfast, or they say breakfast is the most important meal in the day. It's not. It's only Kellogg's invented that. But people who can do it will find that it's very easy. So I'm doing that, and I'm on metformin. And I just want to say that I had a COVID-19 infection early on in the first week of April. It was very mild. I continued to work through that. And the only thing, I still don't smell 100%. It came back very lightly, but I think it's because I'm using what we know about the biology of aging. Can Alzheimer also be prevented by targeting aging? Yes, and even metformin is associated with much less Alzheimer, metformin use. And not only that, there are several small studies, clinical studies, that showed that if you give metformin, it prevents the transit from mild cognitive impairment to Alzheimer. There are more papers like that every day, but they kind of prove the concept that the aging brain is a better target than whatever they tried before. I have a big rant from Alzheimer, from the Alzheimer part of the National Institute of Health, to study why our people are resilient to Alzheimer. Even if they have the genetic to Alzheimer, they don't get it. It's because their aging is slowed, and you don't get Alzheimer without aging. Even you have the genes for Alzheimer, it's not when you're 1 year or 10 year or 20 year or 30 year, you know, you need at least 60 years. You need the aging in order to get the disease. What age should we start taking the drug? That's really a good question. There are going to be medicines for every age, okay? And it'll be personalized. We are developing medicines that are killing very old cells in our body that are accumulating and actually making things worse. It's called senescent cells or zombie cells. And if you take it when you're young, you don't have many of those. If you take it when you're really old, you have that. And that's where you have an effect. So I wouldn't start it at 50. I'll probably start it at 70 or 80. We'll have to see. Metformin, a lot of the studies started at 50. The study I'm doing is going to start at 65, but that doesn't mean that you cannot start it before. So I don't have a clear answer, but the concept that not every drug has to be used in combination is true. It's also true that sometimes the combination will get more of those hallmarks of aging ready also. If you increase health span, will you increase longevity? Well, I said, in my view, there'll be a commercial for this gerotherapeutics. And when it'll come to side effects, it'll say you might live longer. And it's a side effect because I don't know if you can afford it. I don't know if you want it. That's how I see how it's going to be. Well, was a pleasure talking with you. I wish you well, and thank you to the organizer. Thank you.